Hey basketball guys, we have news. Let's go to more news from the Golden State Warriors, but before that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your. Draymond Green is a star and a super champion and a great defender, but he has had a lot of problems in recent seasons and that's why the Warriors could trade him. The Lakers are interested in Draymond Green and could send Dalton Netsch and Rui Hachimura to the Warriors. The Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Lakers are running out of time. The Warriors, despite a core of Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler, were ousted in the conference semifinals by the Minnesota Timberwolves, exposing their need for roster depth and youth. Meanwhile, the Lakers, built around LeBron James and Luka Doncic, suffered a first-round loss to the same Timberwolves, highlighting their lack of defensive grit and roster balance. With both teams looking to retool, a blockbuster trade could be on the horizon. The trade. Lakers receive Draymond Green. Warriors receive Dalton Connect. Rui Hachimura, expiring 2031 first-round pick. For the Lakers, this move would align perfectly with their short championship window. LeBron, now 40, remains a force, but time is ticking. While Dalton Connect, a young wing with sharpshooting potential, has shown promise, his timeline doesn't match the urgency of a win-now roster. Green, a defensive savant and vocal leader, would transform the Lakers' defense, which struggled mightily in the playoffs. Green's ability to guard multiple positions and facilitate on offense would complement Doncic's playmaking and LeBron's versatility. Hachimura and the 2031 pick are valuable, but the Lakers' front office might see this as a necessary sacrifice to maximize their title odds. The Warriors, on the other hand, would face an emotional challenge in parting with Green, a cornerstone of their dynasty. Yet, at a certain point, the organization needs to plan for the future. Connect represents a high-upside wing who could develop into a key piece, while the 2031 first-round pick, potentially a high one given the Lakers' aging core, adds long-term value. Hachimura would provide immediate depth as an athletic forward who can guard threes and fours, something Golden State might need if they see Jonathan Kuminga leave in free agency. While losing Green's tenacity would sting, this trade could set the Warriors up for a smoother transition into the post-Curry era. On the other hand, this particular Draymond trade probably isn't a beefy enough return for the Warriors to consider, but they should at least not rule out dealing Dre this summer if and when a better offer comes along. Green would be heartbroken to have to trade in his Warriors uniform and go somewhere else, but his positive relationship with LeBron has been well documented. Steve Kerr gets honest about contract with Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors had an unfortunate end to their season. After fighting and clawing their way to even make the NBA playoffs, the Warriors lost in 5 games to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference semifinals. Things didn't go their way from a luck standpoint, as superstar guard Stephen Curry suffered a hamstring injury in Game 1. Steve Kerr gets honest about contract situation. While the core group of Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green are all signed through until the end of the 2026-27 season, there's one key piece who isn't, Steve Kerr. Kerr's contract is set to expire at the end of next season. Kerr recently appeared on the TK show to discuss his contract situation during what could be a pivotal offseason for the Warriors. "If they want me back, I'd probably say yes," Kerr said. "How could I say no to the Warriors, Steph and Draymond?" Many credit Kerr with unlocking Curry's true potential. In the first year Kerr took over as head coach, Curry won the first of his 2 consecutive MVP awards. The two also won the first of 4 titles together in 2015. Both Curry and Green are getting up there in age. Curry is 37 and Green is 35, so it's unlikely they would ever play for a different coach other than Kerr at this point in their careers. It's also likely Kerr would meet with those two to discuss how much time they think they have left before deciding on an extension if one is eventually presented to him. Steve Kerr reveals what Eric Spoelstra told him about Jimmy Butler. When the Golden State Warriors added Jimmy Butler, there were a lot of question marks. One of those included how would the disgruntled star go from being coached by Eric Spoelstra to Steve Kerr after reports claimed that Butler did not want to be traded there? Well, the answer to that came pretty quickly. Kerr, however, says he didn't have any concerns after Warriors traded not Butler. Warriors' Steve Kerr reveals what Erik Spoelstra told him about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was traded to the Golden State Warriors at the trade deadline despite many rumors that he wasn't particularly fond of the move. Shortly after, however, Butler agreed to a 2-year, $111 million contract extension. When he was initially traded to the Warriors, Golden State head coach said he spoke with Butler's former coach about the move. Heat coach, Erik Spoelstra told me immediately, he said he's going to be great for you, Kerr said. And I know SPO really well from the last couple of summers and I trust him. I believed him and he was right. Within a couple of days of his arrival, Jimmy was so easy to speak with. He reminded me again of Andre, just the basketball intellect but also the interest in the world and perspective and the maturity. It was really fun to get to know Jimmy right away and to see the impact that he had on our team and our locker room. Kerr and Spoelstra have been coaching in the league for years, but also spent the last few summers together coaching USA's men's national basketball team in the 2023 FIBA World Cup and the 2024 Paris Olympics, where they won gold together. During his introductory press conference in February, Jimmy Butler made sure to be petty and take his friendly jab at the Miami Heat. The biggest part was just getting here to be able to play basketball, Butler said. I just want to be able to go out there and do what I've been doing for a very long time, have fun, smile, and run, and not just feel like I'm doing cardio all game. I'm very, very happy I'm not getting suspended anymore. NBA rules complicate a sign-and-trade for Warriors' Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga's future with the Golden State Warriors has never been more up in the air. Kuminga is set to become a restricted free agent when the NBA's new league year begins at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on June 30th. He's fresh off a season in which he averaged 15.3 points and 4.6 rebounds in only 24.3 minutes per game, although he shot a career-worst 45.4% overall and 30.5% from deep. He also began the playoffs outside of the Warriors' rotation before injuries opened the door for him to work his way back in, which begs the question of whether he'll start next season in the Bay Area. Unfortunately for Kuminga, this offseason is a terrible time to become a free agent. One veteran player agent told ESPN's Brian Windhorst that he's preparing his clients for a free agent recession because the Brooklyn Nets are the only team projected to have significant salary cap space. A sign-and-trade thus may be Kuminga's best chance to land a bigger role and the contract he's hoping for. However, a pair of rules in the NBA's latest collective bargaining agreement could complicate the Warriors' efforts to sign-and-trade Kuminga and net the type of impact rotation players that could turn such a deal into a win-win. Kuminga did not play in the Warriors' regular season finale against the Los Angeles Clippers or their play-in tournament game against the Memphis Grizzlies. During their first-round series against the Houston Rockets, he didn't play at all in Game 1 and only played in Game 2 after Jimmy Butler went down early with a pelvic contusion. Upon Butler's return, Kuminga never got off the bench in Games 4 to 6 against the Rockets and played only 7 minutes in the Warriors' win-or-go-home Game 7. But after Stephen Curry strained his hamstring in Game 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference semifinals, Kuminga played in 4 straight games and averaged 24.3 points in 31.0 minutes per game over that stretch. Jimmy's arrival took away a lot of Jonathan's minutes at the 4, head coach Steve Kerr said on 95.7 The Game in mid-April. There's no doubt that as soon as Jimmy arrived and we started winning, we leaned into lineup combinations that enhanced Jimmy because we were winning. Jonathan was out for that whole stretch, we went like 17-3 or something. So we're gonna keep doing what's been winning. But the lineup with Jimmy, Jonathan, and Draymond Green doesn't fit real well. Frankly, we need more spacing. We found other lineups that have clicked, and that's just part of the deal being in the NBA. Kerr was even more brutally honest about Kuminga in a recent conversation with Tim Kawakami of the San Francisco Standard. It's a tricky one because Jonathan obviously is gifted and wants to play a bigger role and wants to play more, Kerr said. And for me, I've been asked to win. And right now, he's not a guy who I can say I'm going to play 38 minutes with the roster that we have, Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, and put the puzzle together that way and expect to win. During his end-of-season press conference, General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. did express interest in bringing Kuminga back next season, but he noted it was a two-way street. Kerr said that if Kuminga does return, the Warriors will, for sure, spend the early part of the season playing him with Jimmy, Draymond, Steph. He noted the Warriors didn't have the luxury of experimenting once Kuminga returned from the ankle sprain that sidelined him for 2 months since the Warriors were jostling for playoff seeding by that point in the season. Team Governor Joe Lacob hasn't been shy about discussing his fondness for Kuminga in the past. However, Anthony Slater and Marcus Thompson, two of The Athletic, reported that both Kuminga and the Warriors are expected to explore sign-and-trade scenarios this offseason, which would open up the market and theoretically give Kuminga the contract and fresh start he'd desire while bringing the Warriors back rotation players of immediate value. It might not be easy to find a deal that makes sense for all sides, though. Under the new CBA, teams that are above the first apron, which is projected to be $195.9 million in 2025-26, aren't allowed to acquire players via sign-and-trade. Any team that does land someone via sign-and-trade gets hard-capped at the first apron, which means their payroll cannot exceed that threshold for the rest of the league year. Heading into the offseason, 8 teams already project to be either over the first apron or within $1 million of it. Unless the Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, Cleveland Cavaliers, Denver Nuggets or New York Knicks figure out a way to dump considerable salary, they won't be realistic landing spots for Kuminga. There's an even bigger obstacle for the Warriors and Kuminga to overcome, though: base year compensation. When a player is an early bird or full bird free agent, which Kuminga is, he signs a new contract that's above the veteran minimum salary. He earns a raise of at least 20% and his team is over the cap after signing him. His outgoing salary in a sign-and-trade is only 50% of his actual salary for matching purposes. His full salary counts as the incoming salary for whichever team acquires him. In other words, if Kuminga signed a new contract starting at $25 million as part of a sign-and-trade, he'd count as $12.5 million in outgoing salary for the Warriors and $25 million for his new team. Teams that take back more salary than they send out in a trade get hard-capped at the first apron, so the Warriors might struggle to find a sign-and-trade that wouldn't hard-cap them because of the BYC rules. Whereas teams above the first apron can't take back more salary than they send out in a trade, teams below the first apron are allowed to receive an unbalanced amount of salary. In 2025-26, they'd be allowed to take roughly $8.5 million more than they send out, which could help the Warriors find a legal deal. For instance, if Kuminga started at $25 million, the Warriors could send him to the San Antonio Spurs straight up for either Keldon Johnson, $17.5 million, or Harrison Barnes, $19.0 million. However, that deal would hard-cap the Warriors at the first apron since Kuminga would count as only $12.5 million in outgoing salary, so they'd theoretically be taking back more salary than they send out. With only 9 players under contract, the Warriors are already at roughly $170 million in salary for the 2025-26 season, leaving them less than $26 million below the first apron. Whomever they received in a sign-and-trade for Kuminga would gobble up most of that breathing room, which might prevent them from using the $14.1 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception on another free agent. Granted, Kuminga might not have a better option. Since the Nets are the only team projected to have significant salary cap space this offseason, other teams will be limited to the non-taxpayer MLE at most. So if he wants a starting salary above $14.1 million on his next deal, he'll either need to pray the Warriors feel the same way, get the Nets to throw an offer sheet at him, or explore his sign-and-trade options. If he and his agents can find a mutually agreeable deal that wouldn't hard-cap the Warriors, it'd at least be worth hearing out. Otherwise, Kuminga could find himself as the odd man out in the NBA's game of free agent musical chairs this offseason.